This episode is sponsored by Able Now, tax advantage savings accounts for eligible individuals with disabilities. If you're a parent, you know how important it is to plan for your child's future. But if your child has a disability, saving money can feel complicated, especially when you're trying to protect their eligibility for certain benefits like Medicaid. That's where Able Now comes in. Able Now accounts offer a tax-advantaged way to save for your child's future needs without jeopardizing eligibility for those critical disability services and supports. Funds in your account can be used for a wide range of expenses, everything from education to healthcare, housing, transportation, and even basic living expenses. Able Now accounts are available to qualified individuals in all 50 states. Are you eligible? Visit ablenow.com to learn how you can start saving today and join thousands of families using Able Now to secure a brighter future for their loved ones. I'm Debbie Reber, and welcome to Tilt Parenting, a podcast featuring interviews and conversations aimed at inspiring, informing, and supporting parents raising differently wired kids. I get a lot of questions from listeners looking for help navigating complex situations with their kids. So in this new mini episode format, I'll be answering listener questions, sometimes all on my own, sometimes with one of the parent coaches from the Differently Wired Club, and sometimes with an author or expert who's become a trusted resource. Think of these bite-sized, short and sweet parent-leaning episodes as a quick check-in. One question, one answer, featuring strategies, tips, or reframes that can support you in your parenting world. To submit a question for a parent-lean-in episode, just go to tiltparenting.com/lean-in. That's tiltparenting.com/LEANIN. All right, here's today's episode. Hey everybody, today I am being joined by parent coach Margaret Webb for this Parent Lean In episode. And if you've listened to the show for a while, you've definitely heard me talk about Margaret as she is a dear friend. She was my very first parenting coach, and she's the lead parent coach in the Differently Wired Club, where she supports the parents in that community just so beautifully. Also, this past year, she published the book that I have personally been clamoring for years, in which she shares just so much thoughtful, supportive, hard-won wisdom. It's called A Hero's Journey in Parenting, Parenting the Child You Didn't Expect When You Were Expecting. And if you haven't read it, I highly encourage you to grab that. Listen to our podcast conversation about that. You can find that at tiltparenting.com/session361. So welcome, Margaret. Thank you for being here.
I'm so excited to be here. I love these conversations.
I do too. We were just discussing how we need to take this on the road. So listeners, if you want that, let us know. But we have another great question to get into today. It's one I think a lot of listeners will relate to based on feedback that I get from listeners and from folks in the Differently Wired Club. So here goes. I'm a single parent, neurodivergent myself, and in burnout. I'm trying to manage my two neurodivergent kids following a divorce from their much beloved but profoundly limited ex-husband. I'm trying to create a safe, stable household and support my own fragile mental health and grief while working full-time. Self-care sounds great, and whereas I understand deeply that it's the only way forward, it feels impossible. And a little context, this parent has 9 and 11-year-old kids. She says they take out their anger on each other and that the household feels explosive. So we're going to take a quick break now, and then we'll come right back and we'll share our answers for this really powerful question. While my husband isn't necessarily a big fan of Mondays, one highlight of the day is the sound of the buzzer announcing our Factor delivery for the week. Darren loves opening up the box and checking out the meals we've got lined up. It's become a little ritual in our house. Factor meals are chef-crafted, gourmet, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. They're dietitian approved, fresh, and thoughtfully designed to make eating well super easy. Factor has truly been a game changer for our family. It takes the stress out of meal planning and gives us time back in our week. Here's how it works. Factor arrives fully prepared, and every week you can choose from 40 different meal options tailored to 8 dietary preferences like protein plus or vegan or keto. Darren loves the calorie smart meals because they're both delicious and help him stay on track with his nutritional goals. We have a few favorite go-tos that we often reorder, but we also like to mix things up and try something new. This week's standout, grilled chicken with potato and leek puree. So good. Depending on our week, we sometimes add extras like smoothies or grab-and-go snacks or juices. It's so convenient to have these little options ready whenever we need them. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/tilt50off and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/tilt50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. I am really interested in figuring out how to make the best choices to optimize my health, especially when it comes to my workouts, sleep, and of course, my nutrition. And I've learned that when your metabolism is functioning properly, you feel the benefits in literally every aspect of your life because metabolism's essentially your body's engine. It's how your body converts food into fuel to keep you going. And that's why I'm really excited about Lumen, the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath, and through the app provides tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, your workouts, your sleep, even stress management, based on whatever's happening with your metabolism that day. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals to get real-time insights into what exactly is going on in your body. Also, if you're dealing with hormonal changes and fluctuations like I am, Lumen can track your cycle and the onset of menopause, adjusting its recommendations to support a healthy metabolism throughout those hormonal shifts. This helps maintain energy levels and curb cravings. I'm kind of geeking out about having access to this kind of data. I find it so fascinating. Take the next step to improving your health. Go to lumen.me/tilt to get 20% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/tilt for 20% off your purchase. And thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. If you've been listening to this show for a while, you know that our family recently made a big international move from New York back to the Netherlands. It's been so nice to have a few steady constants in our lives, like our subscription to Green Chef. Green Chef is a meal delivery service that brings pre-measured and prepped ingredients straight to your door. Every box is packed with wholesome, clean foods like fresh fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, and whole grains, making it super easy to focus on healthy eating. Green Chef takes the stress out of meal planning, which I so appreciate, and their recipes are curated for a variety of lifestyles and dietary needs. They've even introduced a new Green Chef Reset collection for a limited time. It features dietitian-approved recipes that include fiber support, are lower in saturated fat, and are under 700 calories per serving. I appreciate this extra support for a reset after the holidays, in which many of my healthy eating habits got a bit off track. They also have quick and easy salads, ready-to-blend smoothies, and grab-and-go protein-packed breakfasts. Also, fun fact, Green Chef is owned by HelloFresh, so you get even more meal plan options with the convenience of both brands. I love switching between the two, and now my listeners can enjoy a discount on both brands with me. Thrive all year with clean, easy meals from Green Chef. Go to greenchef.com/tiltfree and use code TILTFREE to get started with free salads for 2 months plus 50% off your first box. Okay, and we're back. And so again, the question is from a single neurodivergent parent who is in burnout and who knows that she would benefit from self-care to support her own mental health, but it also feels impossible at the same time. So this is a topic that I love to talk about. So I'm excited to get into it. And I guess I wanted to just start by, first of all, making sure that we're all on the same page about what self-care is, because it is just one of those things that I think there's a lot of myths or misunderstanding. And as a concept, it has a lot of like ideas attached to it that I don't think are necessarily helpful. So the way that I define self-care is that it is something intentional. That's the first part. It's intentional. And the second part is that you do it just for you. So you do it to support yourself. So you're intentionally supporting yourself. I also call this conscious maintenance because that doesn't have the same kind of stigmas as self-care does. So if we're talking about self-care, then one of the things I would recommend first is really getting honest about what is getting in the way of self-care. Like what are the actual barriers? What are the beliefs? What is the self-talk? Is it, I don't have enough time. I'm too tired. I can't afford to do this. I don't deserve to do this. Like we might have all kinds of messaging about why self-care isn't happening that we need to bring to the surface because we want to challenge those ideas, right? Because they're subconsciously, driving the ship. They're kind of these unexamined truths like, well, I can't do it. Like, I know I need to, it's impossible. And then we just kind of keep, plugging along. So we want to ask ourselves, why does it feel impossible? And come up with evidence for any ideas you come up with, any beliefs, any thoughts you have around why it's impossible. Come up with evidence for how those may not be true. Again, because they can be habitual if we're not challenging them. So that's the first thing. Just kind of got to understand what is getting in the way. And the other thing I just want to start with, and then we'll go back and forth on this one because I want to give you time to respond and share your initial thoughts. But I just think it's so important that we believe and truly know that there is no way that we can show up as our best selves to parent these kids if we are not regulated, if we're not taking care of ourselves. It can't happen. Like it's literally an impossibility. So we really want to help ourselves think about that this is just as critical, if not more, a critical parenting strategy as anything else we might read or any approaches we might have or conversations we would have with our kids or, point system, anything that we would do. This is as, if not more important than that. It is not separate from any parenting strategies that we might use. So I just want to throw that out there too, because I think a lot of us think it's an optional thing or it's a nice to have, or it's something that people, have a privilege to be able to take advantage of, or it's just not accessible and available to everyone. And I think we need to change our relationship with it across the board. So I'm going to pause there because I want to see what came up for you initially with this question, Margaret.
What you just said is what my whole book is about.
Excellent.
It is essentially what the whole book is about, because it is taking care of ourselves. And I think there can be discomfort, especially, so this person said that there's some grief. They've gotten a divorce or they've separated, or there's been a massive shift in what the family dynamics are. And so there's grief. And so, of course, it might feel super uncomfortable to sit still, to take care of yourself in the smallest of ways. And so, that's what, one of the things that came up for me was just self-care. Yeah, it sounds great, but it feels impossible. So think of the smallest thing that would feel, nourishing for yourself, that feels like this is what I'm needing. And, if you can't give it to yourself, that's what you're talking about. Get curious about why not, and some of it might be that there's grief or that there's uncomfortable feelings that come up. And that's why I've got a whole section on processing emotions, because it's once you get still or once you start taking care of yourself, those thoughts can come up of, I don't deserve this, or I can't do this, or I'm feeling angry. And how do I sit here and be grateful, or sit here and appreciate the beauty of the sunrise when I'm feeling angry? They're all allowed. Mm-hmm. Those things are totally allowed. And you're right. That has to happen first, because our kids are so sensitive to our energy. Everybody's sensitive to everybody's energy. It's somebody says, "Oh, how are you doing?" "Oh, I'm fine." Okay. You're going to feel that prickly energy and be okay, we should probably back away from this person because they're not fine. And our kids are picking up on that all of the time. And so, when you say "Oh, I feel like our house is explosive," or it feels that's the energy. What I like to follow is just, okay, how do I take care of myself and my stuff? And then, I wrote down, can you bring your kids in? I like to follow a process, the TIANT process, what's causing you tension in your life? What is your intention? What is some attention that you can give to the situation that you're feeling challenged with. And then the NT is no or less tension or no tension, but that's not really realistic. But I think like when you really sit down and think, okay, and they're 9 and 11, I think they're at an age where you can say, you know what, I'm not liking how things are going. That would be the tension. Like, I'm not liking that you guys are kind of, taking your anger out on each other. A sidebar to that is like, is there therapy for them? Like, are they working with therapists, even if it's an OT, to kind of get that angry energy out? Like, even telling them, hey, like, we need to get some of this angry energy out because they're taking it out on each other or me. But it's like, okay, hey guys, like, this isn't, I'm feeling this. And this is how I want our house to feel. That's the intention, is this is what I'm wanting. And then the attention is like, what can we do? Or what have we done? What are we currently doing? What would you like to see different? So that we can create more of maybe the peace and calm. Like when I think of the opposite of explosive, it's like peace, calm, maybe more ease. How do we do that? And maybe say like, okay, like let's schedule a fun dinner every week and we can see like, how did we do this week? And that way then you become like the three of you become a team where you're all working together towards a common like intention, a common goal, and not being a shaming experience of like, oh, well, this didn't work. It's just like, okay, it didn't work. Great. What can we do different the next time or this next week? But like combining a fun experience of like, maybe getting takeout, like everybody maybe alternating, people get to pick takeout and having it be a positive experience to go over some of these things so that you're kind of whittling away at getting back to how you want your home and your family life to feel.
Good stuff. I'm going to share a couple other things that came up for me too before we wrap up. So I love that you said tiny and small. I wrote start as small as humanly possible. If we're thinking about creating some new habits, right? Because if you're not doing anything self-care wise, you may need to form some new habits so that it becomes something that is more automatic or a default for you in the way that you go through your day. And so one of the things I wanted to suggest is attaching a new self-care habit to something you already are doing. Like my hunch is you shower regularly, right? So in the shower, can you add in the self-care conscious maintenance act of taking some deep breaths? Or can you sing a song on or off key? It's totally up to you. Can you cry in the shower? Can you, to have an emotional release? But you're already taking a shower, most likely, not necessarily every day. You do you, but if it's something that you're habitually doing, what could you build into that? It's easier to start a habit when you're connecting it to something.
A silent scream in the shower.
What's a silent scream?
It's just when you stand there and you just open your mouth and you're like, and it's just like as though you're screaming, but you're not letting any sound up, but you're letting like the energy. And so if there's frustration around something, that can be self-care too.
Yes.
Is letting that out. And like, I love how many things are exploding in my brain just about taking a shower. Because it's like allowing yourself to smell the soap, like getting into your senses, like allowing yourself to feel like the warm water on even that, like that can be the smallest of things. Mm-hmm. But it's like, ooh, like when was, and that for me was a big thing because it was like back when I was starting my journey, it was like, oh, I was using the soap and shampoo that I hated. And it was like, I spent a lot of time just like wandering the shampoo aisle to pick, or the soap aisle to pick smells that I liked. And I would stand there and I would, in the shower, and it would be like, I would allow myself just for that moment to smell what I was putting on my body. Mm-hmm. So sorry to interrupt you.
No, I love that. Yeah. That's exactly it. that's how small we're talking about. Yep. So I think all those things reinforce the idea that we matter, which is really what self-care is about, right? It's about reminding ourselves that we have value, that we matter, that we need to take care of ourselves so we can show up for other people. So I love that. And we can do the same thing with anything else, right? That we habitually do, brushing our teeth, cooking, right? If you're cooking or straightening up, like listen to a song that you love. That's one of my strategies that I do all the time. So creating a new habit, tying it with something you already do. And then the last thing I wanted to share is, as I read this question, I really felt this sense of the person really struggling with overwhelm and grief. And my hunch is that her nervous system is also pretty shot, where she's just feeling very depleted and fried. And it made me wonder, is there also something that the listener could commit to doing that could kind of kickstart her system, right? If she's already at a deficit and is feeling completely burned out and shut down. Is there something to kind of help you physiologically get to a more grounded or regulated place? And I'm just going to share it. Over the past year, I went through a significant chunk of time where I was really in that space. I was like operating in this hypervigilance all the time and really feeling completely depleted. My anxiety was high. My energy was low. I had no capacity to really respond with calm. And I really felt like I needed, I was doing all the things on paper that I knew how to do in my self-care stuff, but my baseline was so low. And so one of the things that I did was, actually two things I did. One was that my therapist is like, find a yoga class that you go to in person. She also said, make sure it smells good. That was one of her. She's like, it's very important if you're going to go back. So I found a restorative yoga class that I committed to going to once a week. Just once a week. It was hard to get myself out there sometimes, but I did it. And then I also did acupuncture, and I was able to, get my insurance to help pay for it. But I did acupuncture that was it was just to try to get my nervous system, it was to send support. And that helped me kind of get out of that chronic fight or flight cycle. And then I was more available to doing the other things, or those other self-care, even the little things would have more of an impact because I kind of elevated my baseline. So I just wanted to throw that out there too, if there's a way to support yourself externally that can help you get back online. So anything that you want to add before we wrap up, Margaret?
No, I think the only thing I would add, it's not even an ad, it's just a curiosity as you were talking. It's just how interesting it is that like sometimes we can feel like it's coming from our kids, and it's the nudge, and kind of the what's perfect about this experience of having things feel explosive, or having, feeling like your kids are just kind of nudging and prompting this all. Is that it does nudge you to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's one of the many gifts, right? At the end of the day. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you. I think that's a great note to end this on. I hope the answers that we provided and the insights were helpful for the listener, and for everyone listening. I hope you took something away from this conversation. So thanks to the person who submitted this question. And thank you, Margaret, for joining me to walk through it.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody. You've been listening to the T.I.A.N.T Parenting Podcast. To learn more about the resources mentioned in this Parent Lean In episode, go to the extensive show notes page on tiltparenting.com. To submit a question for a future episode, just go to tiltparenting.com/leanin. That's tiltparenting.com/LEANIN. If you're looking for personal support from me and connection with the phenomenal community of parents raising neurodivergent kids, join us in the recently rebooted Differently Wired Club. The new Differently Wired Club can help you cultivate the positive shifts you're hoping for. Go to tiltparenting.com/club to learn more. The T.I.A.N.T Parenting Podcast is hosted by me, Debbie Reber, author of Differently Wired and the founder of T.I.A.N.T Parenting. To support this show, please join my Patreon campaign, where you can set up a small monthly contribution. Just go to patreon.com/tiltparenting to learn more. If you want to follow T.I.A.N.T on social media, go to @tiltparenting on Instagram and Facebook. Lastly, please take a minute to leave a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. That helps this show stay visible so others can find it more easily. And that's all for this week. stay safe, stay well, and take good care. And for more information about any of the parenting resources Tilt offers, visit tiltparenting.com.